Good afternoon. With less than 2 weeks before the 2019 federal election, things are starting to get very interesting, especially in Quebec. Earlier in the week, party leaders participated in an English language debate. With 6 party leaders on the stage, it sometimes became difficult to follow the discussion. However, the consensus among pollsters and the media is that the NDP and Bloc Québécois benefited the most and were rewarded with increased support in subsequent polls. Similar to previous weeks, the Conservatives and Liberals sit atop the polls at a federal level, with each party hanging on to 33% of the support. Trailing behind is the NDP with 15%, the Greens at 10%, and the Bloc Québécois at 6%. Shifting to the calculated politics seat projection, I have the Liberals with 155 seats and the Conservatives with 132 seats, which is a decrease for both parties week over week. The Bloc Québécois pick up 3 seats compared with last week, bringing them to 22 seats, and this puts them 2 seats back of the NDP. Polling over the next few days, along with the official French language leaders debate, should show whether the increase in support for the Bloc Québécois and NDP continues. Moving the focus to provincial breakdowns, there are some interesting shifts in support. In Ontario, the provincial Progressive Conservatives managed to narrowly avoid a CUPE strike that would have closed many schools across the province and possibly impacted support for the federal Conservatives. Instead, the Liberals continue a slight downward trajectory in support, sitting around 38%, whereas the Conservatives trend upward to 33%. This change in support is more pronounced when looking at the seat projection, where the Liberals are down 3 seats week over week, bringing them to 70 seats, while the Conservatives gain 4 seats, bringing them to 40 seats. The NDP also loses a seat in Ontario, which brings them to 11 seats. Quebec is probably the most interesting province right now, with the Bloc Québécois and NDP each enjoying a post-debate surge, which has them respectively gaining 1% and 2% in support. This puts the Liberals at the top with 34% and the Bloc Québécois and Conservatives well behind at 25% and 19% respectively. The NDP gain puts them at 13%, with the Greens trailing at 7%. If this upward trend in support continues for the Bloc Québécois and NDP, it could very well spell trouble for the Liberals and Conservatives in Quebec and also across the country. I still see Maxime Bernier winning the only seat for the People's Party in his riding of Beauce, where he currently hangs on to a 9-point lead. Not to be outdone, British Columbia continues to keep things interesting, with all major parties expected to come away with seats. I'm seeing a loss in support for the Conservatives, NDP, and Greens in British Columbia, with the Liberals gaining. The Conservatives now sit in a tie with the Liberals at 30% support, which is the closest that things have been since early September. The NDP and Greens are well back with 18% and 15% of the vote, respectively. In terms of seats, the Conservatives and Liberals are each projected to come away with 14 seats, with the NDP behind at 10 seats. Looking toward Alberta and the Prairies, the Conservatives are still solidly ahead in both popular vote and seat projection. Focusing in on Alberta, the riding of Calgary-Skyview shifts to a toss-up from a slight Conservative advantage, with the Liberals very slightly ahead. This would leave the Conservatives with 33 seats in Alberta to 1 seat for the Liberals. The Conservatives also lose 1 seat in the Prairies, with Elmwood-Transcona shifting to a toss-up with the NDP. In this riding, the incumbent Daniel Blakey will run against the former MP for that riding, Lawrence Todt. Across the Prairies, this means the Conservatives are projected to take 23 seats, with the Liberals taking 3 and the NDP with 2. Traveling all the way east to Atlantic Canada, the Liberals and Conservatives each lose slightly week over week, with the NDP gaining. Again, this could be related to the post-debate bump that we've seen for the NDP across other jurisdictions. Even with this loss in support, the Liberals still hold a commanding lead over the Conservatives, with 41% of support to 29%. The Greens are in third with 15% and the NDP trail at 13%. The seat projection is relatively unchanged week over week, with the Liberals still projected to take 22 seats and the Conservatives taking 10. This week, I'd also like to quickly look at Northern Canada, where we have 3 ridings that could essentially go either Liberal or Conservative. I have the Liberals very slightly ahead in Northwest Territories and Yukon, and the Conservatives very slightly ahead in Nunavut. That sums up week 5 in the election. For more information, you could find me on Twitter @CalculatedPolly or through my website, calculatedpolitics.com.